All right, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another deck profile. I apologize for the wait, but I promise that it has been worth the wait. This is a very cool deck profile that I'm very excited to share with you guys. I wish I could have shared it sooner. I really wanted to, but I wanted to make sure I got a solid amount of experience with the deck first, and that all the cards were actually tested this time compared to the last profile where I kind of threw it together and just described a theory. This time I have a lot more experience, and the deck has been upgraded through experience rather than play history. So this deck is really awesome. It is the Worldshaper Precon, as you can tell by the thumbnail. It's probably why you're here. It turns out it's a very popular commander. I did not buy it because it's popular. I just randomly went into the store and I saw the artwork on this deck and I bought it for $70. I had no idea what was in it, but it totally blew me away with what it actually could do at first. It felt a bit clunky, so I've put a fair amount of money into it and upgraded it a little bit. And now it is like, it's pretty much my favorite deck, which is something I didn't really expect so soon with a deck. Usually it takes me quite a while to really get used to a deck. I've tried both of the commanders with this one, and I did end up settling on the spacecraft here, Hearthole. I just find he's a lot better at closing out the game. Cyril is really nice at playing lands from the graveyard and stuff, which is really cool to build around, but when it comes to actually just getting wins, I find Hearthole to be more efficient at this. So I find with the deck, you're kind of playing this mini game where each of your lands are capable of dealing 2 damage, essentially. So you're playing this game where you're trying to get to whoever has the highest life total. Do you have half as many lands as this person? So if someone's at 30 life, do I have 15 lands? Can I just win the game, basically? My whole goal is I'm trying to basically win in one solid amount of sacrificing. If I can sacrifice all my lands at once, in a way that can't be responded to, or just do it at a time, like just sack one land, you'll see certain cards will be capable of this, rather than just doing it like once each time. You kind of want to have one explosive turn, and this deck does do that. This deck feels a lot like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you're playing not so much Magic theory, but Yu-Gi-Oh theory, where you get so much mana that you're not thinking in card types, creature, land, enchantment, artifact. You're thinking more what's called starters and extenders. So a starter is a card that will start getting your plays going. So for this deck, a starter is a card that will be able to sacrifice a land without any other cards. So a card like Sylvan Safekeeper is a fantastic starter in this deck, where I can just activate it and sacrifice a land. And I can do this at no cost, and I can do this over and over again. We're also playing cards called extenders. So extenders are cards that rely on essentially your starters to do the thing. So I'm going to be sacrificing lands. Extenders are cards that are going to benefit from me sacrificing lands. So Hearthful is example of an extender as well, because whenever I sacrifice a land, each opponent is going to lose 2 life. But it doesn't sacrifice lands. Actually, this guy is nice because he is a starter and extender, which is why he's great in the command zone, because you can pay 1, tap him, sacrifice a land, which is what I want to be doing, and you draw 2 cards. You can play an extra land, which this deck needs. You need extra lands. This deck is so mana hungry. You're going to be sacrificing lands so fast. If you can't keep playing more lands, you're actually going to fall behind, which I found was the problem with this deck. Is you start sacrificing lands, do the thing, and then if you don't win, you're sitting at a lot less lands than everyone else, and now everyone's kind of upset at you. So you have to be kind of sneaky with this deck. The benefit of my pod is we play commanders face down. So usually the first couple turns, I can kind of get away playing slow and they won't really know what I'm doing. And then just on the 1 turn I need to explode, I just play Hearthhole. Another balance of the deck I found running a spacecraft is you need a good amount of creatures too because if you can't station them up to that 8 ability, you're not really going to be closing out the game as fast. So there's going to be a lot of creatures in this deck. So sorry for the ramble, but just some context going into this. So we're going to start with the lands first. I'm running 41 lands, I believe. I've got the deck list here. 41 lands. Average mana value of the deck is 1.9, so it's quite low, surprisingly, for how many big bombs I have in the deck. But with how many lands I'm running, it kind of balances out a little bit. I probably should be running more, but this has been working out pretty good so far, I think. So we'll start kind of with the lands and categories. So the first kind of big money land I got was the Lotus Field. I thought it was like 20 bucks, but it was actually like 64, which was almost as much as the whole precon itself. It is not worth that much money. I would not, if you're trying to upgrade this deck as well, Lotus Field is like cool. You can sack 2 lands, but in the end of the day, you're not winning the game. So if you can get like a Famished Worldsire or something, that's going to be doing a lot better than a Lotus Field. Just get like a Sylvan Safekeeper or Zuran Orb or something, and yeah, don't spend the money on this unless you like really want to. This was just really nice, the Galaxy foil, so it was just yeah, kind of an indulgent spend. And then so my 3 additions that I personally liked, I haven't checked many other deck lists, but I like the Hidden Caves from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. They enter tapped, which kind of sucks, but you can pay 5 and sacrifice them to discover for 4, which is kind of like cascading. And I run a card in the deck that you can get all 3 out at once if you need, which is kind of cool. But I don't really know if they're good. It's just kind of what I like. So just to be a little different, I run them. And then for like sacrifice kind of fetch lands, we've got like Mountain Valley, which came with the deck. We've got the Cabaret Courtyard, Maester's Theater, Riveteer's Outlook, Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, Fabled Passage. All of these lands sacrifice to get a basic land out of the deck. So I actually had to up the amount of basics in the deck because even now actually I still keep running out of basics. So I might have to figure out what to do with that. I might just have to add like a couple more lands, to be honest, and maybe cut a couple cards. So if you guys have any ideas or any cards come up that you think are cuttable, let me know, because it's just me looking at the deck, and obviously my bias is I try not to have as much of a bias as I can, but that's easier said than done. So anyways, so we've got just kind of like Crystal Vein you can also sacrifice, which is basically like a recurable Ancient Tomb in the deck. If you can get multiple lands and start playing from your graveyard, you can just sacrifice it for 2, play it again, sacrifice for 2, play again, and just kind of keep going off. And then now we've just got like the color fixing land, so like Command Tower, and then like a bunch of like just dual colored lands. So we've got like some basic land types in there just to help fetch them out. Bajuka Bog, I only play because we can like replay it multiple times. So normally it's kind of meh, but being able to like play it 3 times and exile 3 different graveyards kind of makes it a little better. But it's still a card that if I had another way to deal with graveyards in the deck, I wouldn't really need Bajuka Bog as much. Dakmor Salvage is in here just for Gitrog Monster. Just helps to like kind of loop through your deck to find stuff faster and sculpt your hand. The downside though is it's on the end step, so you have to wait a whole turn cycle before you get to play it out. So it's kind of like a fair version. And then we just got a ton of basics. So I've got a lot of green, a lot of black, and it's like four mountains. I think I might add 1 more mountain, but when I look at the color distribution of the lands, I definitely still need more. I need like 30% more green still. I could cut like 1 mountain, maybe one swamp, but so far it hasn't been too bad. If anything, I found I've needed more mountains or more red sources. But that's all the lands. Normally the lands aren't that big of a deal, but with this deck, there's a lot to talk about with the lands. So we'll go into kind of like pretty much almost half the deck is going to be the creatures, starting from lowest mana value here. We're going to start with Sylvan Safekeeper, which I got quite a while ago, and I'm glad I did because I'm sure this went up quite a lot in price. Unfortunately, I'm in Canada and Moxfield is in US, so I wish I could just do the mental math in my head sometimes, but this is a pretty pricey card, but it's well worth it because I've won a couple games now with this deck. Zulaport Cutthroat, I only added in here because I figured I would be making infinite tokens a lot more than I do, and I was hoping just to kind of have a closer in the deck. I find he doesn't really do too much. He kind of just raises a lot of people's alarms of anything, so he might come out. Here, I'll just kind of put all the scaling here. Aftermath Analyst came with the deck, which is really nice. You'll notice I tried to keep the flavor of the deck, but trying to just improve upon it. So you'll probably see a lot of stuff that was still in the Precon. Aftermath Analyst is really nice because it gives you that self-mill for 3. And it's like a Splendid Reclamation. So you can pay 4 and return all your lands from the graveyard back to the battlefield, which is really nice. Because we play against a lot of decks that mill us. So it turns it into more of a fuel rather than being a hindrance. Shigeki is in here. Normally I like to play him as part of a combo with like Early Harvest and like a way to recur him from the graveyard. And you can do like infinite mana at that point. But he is just in here because you need a way to recur from your graveyard more than the deck gives you. And he can also kind of help ramp sometimes. I guess, yeah, I can see an argument to have him cut, but being able to channel him when you get a ton of mana in your hand and just recur everything back from your grave that you need to go off again has been quite nice a couple times. Springheart Nantuko. This guy is basically in a category of cards like the Tireless Provisioner, anything that makes a token like Scoot Swarm on a landfall. This thing is part of that same category. They're just really busted if you're playing lots of lands, which this deck is trying to do. He's great. You can also make copies of your creatures, so being able to make copies of like Rampaging Baloths or like any of these other creatures you see, think of just having copies of them. House Cartographer is kind of a card I like running. When on my second main phase, if he's tapped, which you use him to station, you reveal cards until you reveal a land. So it keeps your hands full of lands, which matters for one of the creatures coming up, which we'll talk about. Traveling Botanist is kind of like another card just like him, where when he becomes tapped, you look at the top card. If it's a land, which it more than likely will be, you can put it into your hand, and if not, you can put it into your graveyard. So he kind of like fills your graveyard too, while also being able to station your commander, which is really nice because like having the artifact as a commander really sucks sometimes, just having people just 1 mana just destroy your commander. But on the other side, you can just play him back and station him all the way up to 8 in a single turn as well, which I don't know, pros and cons. Braids is in here because this thing just draws you so many cards. This deck does not have a lack of drawing cards. It's crazy how much mana you can make and draw cards at the same time. It really does not feel fair. Loot is really good in the deck. He's mostly here for the additional land, but there has been times where I've paid 6 to look at the top 6, and I've hit like Famished Worldsire or like Kodama. So it's really nice. You have enough lands out usually that it doesn't matter on the mana value restriction. Scorin Swarm is in here as a copy of Scoot Swarm as well. He's like the reverse version. These guys are crazy. You can get up to like hundreds, maybe even thousands of these guys if they do not get answered right away. These two, like every card in this deck is part of a combo in some way, it feels like. So everything just needs to be removed at all times. And you can't even put it in the graveyard. You have to exile like everything. So when we get to the instant and sorceries, this deck is very much tailored to dealing with things that stop searching / tutoring and things that stop lands or graveyards. So all of my stuff is going to be tailored to deal with Rest in Peace, enchantments, Leyline of the Void, Ashiok Dream Render, Opposition Agent, even Mind Sensor. Like, I hate all of these cards. They all stop me from playing. So you need to be prepared to deal with those, which, sorry, that's an instant and sorcery thing. Horizon Explorer. I wish this guy came up more. I swear I've seen this guy like come once in my hand the time I've played this deck, 12 times now. I've seen him like once naturally. He is like insane. He's convinced me that I need, what is it, Amulet of Vigor, or like the ones that make your lands come in untapped, which he does. Creating the lander tokens is okay. I find landers are like a little expensive mana-wise for what you want to be doing, but the lands coming in untapped is just ridiculous. Being able to go Famished Worldsire, sack 10 lands, drop in another 15 lands untapped and keep going, and then burn everyone for like 20 damage usually closes out the game. So this guy's amazing. 6 is another really good card. He's a reason why you want lands in your hand, because he gives all your non-land permanents retrace, so you can recast them from your graveyard. But you have to discard a land to do it though, so. Surprisingly, all my lands are either on the battlefield or in the graveyard and not in my hand. Mayhem Devil is a card I'm thinking about cutting. Like, I've had him. I'm trying not to get into the bias where I've won a game with him, but it's only because I was like already winning. So like I sacrificed a bunch of lands and I was burning for 2 damage, and the Mayhem Devil on top, which is the mayhem damage, closed it out. But otherwise, like, yeah, he can deal with the board and stuff, but you don't really care about the board. You only just care about just sacrificing your lands and trying to win the game. So I don't know. Maybe like someone could convince me to run him, or like maybe he's better than I'm thinking, but I don't know. Tireless Provisioner, he's another combo piece along with Scoot Swarm, Skurin Swarm, and Springheart Nantuko. They all just loop and make tokens whenever a land enters. So just crazy there. Now to the 4-drops. This card is crazy. Ice Till Explorer. This is power creep on a next level, because you play this card and then you don't play with it. It's like playing with Nykthos. You feel so left out not having a card with 2 effects like this on your oh man. One of the downsides, if there is anything, is with the amount of lands you play, you have a potential to like mill yourself out a little bit. But like, oh man, playing lands from your graveyard with the extra land drop is just so busted. Like, man, I don't even know what to say about this guy. This guy is just ridiculous. If you can get one, please get one. He is worth it. He is definitely worth the money, unlike the Lotus Field. I'll say that. Might Form Harmonizer is mostly in here for the artwork. But being able to double the power of stuff has actually been really useful, especially when it comes to stationing. You can just double something and then be able to station and then kind of start going off from there. So he's been quite nice, actually. I don't know if I would cut him or not yet, but he's been really cool. The Warp, I don't really, honestly, with the writing, I kind of forget there's a warp there sometimes. Oracle of Moldiah is really nutty too, playing an extra land on my turn again, start noticing a theme. I've actually had to end up just having a separate dice to track how many lands I can play and how many I've played, because you can do so many actions in the game, you'll just get lost and be like, how many lands have I played now? Like, am I on land 2, land 3? Playing with the top card of your library is like a bit of a downside though, because then everyone can see what you're doing. You start drawing cards. You got to start like flipping up and revealing everything, but it is just worth it for the extra land drop. I guess that's it for the 4-drops. On to 5-drops now. We've got Mazarek. He's 5 mana for a 2/2 is really bad, but whenever you sack a permanent, you put a 1/1 counter on each of your creatures, and he is just kind of a win con. If you can't burn for damage, he will make your stuff huge. The downside, though, is you need him to be out there with a bunch of other stuff. Like, by himself, he's not really the best. So I don't know if I'd keep him or not, but he's just an alt win con. Gitrog Monster is... Oh, man. When I've played competitive, I'm, like, 0 for 4 against Gitrog Monster. Just every time I play against this guy, Oh, he's so gross. He plays an extra land as well. And then on your upkeep, he sacks a land. So, and you get to draw... Whenever a land hits your graveyard, you draw a card, which just... This guy alone makes your turns like 2 or 3 minutes longer, just because every time... Like, you get this guy out with Ice Till Explorer, you play a land, you mill a land, then you draw a card, and you're like, oh, well, I can play 2 more lands, so I can play from my graveyard, so let me just play this one land I can play from my grave. Oh, it's a fetch land. Let me sacrifice it, which, oh, triggers Gitrog Monster to draw a card. And then if you've got, like, Might Form, you're like, okay, well, I'll double Gitrog's power. And then, oh, man, it just starts getting out of hand. And I've had to apologize for the amount of stuff. But it's like Yu-Gi-Oh, man, where you just take, like, a 10, 15-minute turn. And the hope is that you can just win the game and... be like, I promise you I'll just try to win. That's what I'm going for. So we can just go on to the next one, which is the Mercy, is winning the game. Corvold is... Honestly, if you really want to play competitive, like if you're actually playing like bracket 4, Corvold is probably the better commander, I would imagine. I don't run him because we have someone else that runs Corvold, and... just my own personal experience, I know how good he is, so I refuse to play him as the commander. Same with like Lord Windgraves, for example. There's someone else that plays him, and I just think he's really, really busted. So yeah, personal experience. Cyril, Genesis Shepherd. I've tried him for a while. The backup commander. Playing lands from your graveyard is really cool, but I find a lot of the times people in my pot, anyways, keep my board pretty trimmed. So I find I don't have other creatures to really benefit. And there's a lot of times I just have empty triggers that don't do anything. At least with Hearthhole, I can play extra lands per turn and then maybe have a better explosive turn. So, yeah, I just like he's okay. I just found he's not as good as Hearthhole. On the 6 drops, we got Rampaging Ballast. He's another combo piece in terms of like... position with Tireless Tracker, Scoot Swarm, all of the token makers. Yeah, he's a way you can just make infinite tokens. Kodama of the East Tree is like the main centerpiece of all the combos. If you check out the primer, there's like... And if you input this deck into Commander Spellbook, it'll show you all the combos, how to do it. There's like a few 5-card combos that all change depending on each one of these you have, where... Like, Kodama is just a huge, huge problem with the deck. He's usually dealt with. But being able to put in another permanent every time a permanent hits your battlefield just starts to get crazy. And like I said, if you've got, like, Scoot Swarm out and a couple other cards or combinations of cards, you can really just go infinite with this guy. So, if you ever draw this dude, yeah, you want to play him. Omnath, he's for a 7-drop. He's in line with the Rampaging Ballasts and the Scoot Swarms. He just makes tokens whenever a land enters. But he has actually like killed someone before, where I've had like 25 elementals, and he can burn 3 damage to anything when an elemental dies. So just being able to like hit for 26 times 3 has been helpful as well. The last creature, sorry, not commander, is Famished Worldsire. I just happen to have this guy sitting around. I pulled him from a pack before or something. But this guy is like half the reason I win the games. Being able to just come in, devour lands, so he gets to sacrifice a land, as many as you want. And for each one, he gets 3/1/1 counters, which makes his power and toughness like 3 times each land. So if you sacrifice like 9 lands, he's at 27/27. And then you get to look at that many cards off at the top and then put any lands from among them onto the battlefield, which usually there's going to be a high amount. There has been times, though, where I've played him late in the game And when I've got no more fetch targets, sometimes you can be low on lands. But if you play him on curve, he's crazy. I usually try to just hold him until I'm at like at least 10 lands and then try to smoke everyone for 20 and just cause a bunch of stuff there. But if there's been any single upgrade to the deck, Famished Worldsire is the upgrade to make for this deck. He is absolutely insane. All right, and that is it for the creatures. So moving on to non-creatures now. Starting with instants, a huge inspiration for the direction I took for the deck is this instant called Harness Infinity. The artwork on this card is just amazing, but all it says is exchange your hand in your graveyard and then exile it. So if you've got no cards in hand and then you draw this and you've got a ton of mana, yeah, you're playing a pretty long turn just being able to swap everything. It is quite expensive mana-wise, so to play it is a little awkward, but the times it's come through has been just amazing. I think I've done it 2 times now, and both times have led me to winning the game. But it is a 7 mana instant, so I totally get if no one is on the board with this. But in terms of like underrated cards, Harness Infinity is an amazing card. If you don't have much graveyard hate in your pod, play that card. They're going to start upping their graveyard hate. Rakdos Charm is in here because we have a lot of token decks in our pods. An example of a couple days ago, we played against a pod that was like 2 or 3 Hazel decks, just all trying to make squirrels. So Rakdos Charm is in here because, like I said, with that mini game you're playing with this deck is you're trying to reduce just everyone's life total. So if you're sitting there with 15 lands and you're like, I can deal 30 damage, but someone is sitting at 38 life, oh, but they've got 8 creatures or more creatures, this just helps you kind of get down so you can just explode in that one turn. Destroying an artifact doesn't really matter. Exiling a graveyard, though, actually comes up a couple times, so I would say it's either just exiling a graveyard or usually dealing 1 damage to everyone. Yeah, I've killed a couple people with that, which is kind of funny. Bitter Triumph. This one's in here because it can destroy a creature or planeswalker. So like I was saying, you really need to kill Opposition Agent, you need to kill even Mind Sensor, and you need to kill Ashiok, and sometimes Narset. Or is it Narset? The one that stops you from drawing more than once per turn. Which leads me to my hidden tech of the deck, which is Mind Collapse. If it's your turn, you can sacrifice a mountain and play this for free, basically. So it's kind of like a starter as well, but it also deals 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker. So this also deals with exactly what I need it to. If only it could deal with an enchantment, it would literally be like the perfect removal. So if Wizards could make something that does 5 damage or like destroys a creature, planeswalker, or enchantment, that would be amazing in these colors. Which leads to the next card, which is Beast Within. Normally, I don't run this. I think I actually cut this and then added it back in because, again, I need to be able to deal with creatures, planeswalkers, and more specifically, enchantments. Leyline of the Void and Rest in Peace absolutely wreck this deck. Like, if you haven't come across that and every card has gone to exile instead of going to your graveyard, you literally just can't do anything. You're just exiling your whole deck as you play. So you really need to have a good amount of these cards. We've also got Entish Restoration. So it's basically, we had, I think, 2 cards in here that you can sack a land and then get 2 out of the deck. This one, though, you can actually get up to 3, which can be a little nice. So it's got just a higher ceiling. Imp's Mischief is in here because you can change the direct target of a spell. So if someone tries to kill any of my stuff during a combo or something, I can just change that. Nature's Claim's in here to deal with enchantments. The artifact removal isn't that big of a concern, but mostly just being able to 1 mana hit an enchantment is really nice. Grapple with the Past is in here because you can combo it with the Shigeki, where you can use this to grab Shigeki, and then Shigeki can grab this back. And just kind of keep getting itself if you need to. And it also mills 3 cards, which is nice, and it can get a land back. Harrow is the other land I run, or the other instant I run where I can sack a card, land, and get 2 more out. Farseek's out here because I got lots of dual lands, so I can just get those instead of a basic. I try to never fetch my basics if I can help it, because I need all of my targets, because I'll run out of targets so fast. All right, so my next kind of hidden tech I got from MTG Goldfish, it's Cosmium Confluence. So I can get any of my caves out of the deck. So if I've got 1 or 2 of them out, I can just choose one. But the other mode is I can choose the same mode more than once. I can search for a cave, put onto the battlefield tapped, put 3 1/1 counters on a cave, and make it a land, and give it haste. Or I can destroy an enchantment. So destroying the enchantment is actually very, very like handy with this deck. Like I said, your biggest outs are Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void. So you need to just deal with that while also being able to get your sacrifice lands is also just, to me, this is almost an auto include because it hits both of the rules that I need. It's very important removal, and it gets me more of my important lands that I need. So almost an auto include. It sucks that it's 5 mana though. Eldritch Evolution. So this is a newer card I added just so I can get to, honestly, the Horizon Explorer. I was just tired of not drawing this guy, and finally getting back to him more consistently has made a lot of difference with the deck. Also, just being able to sacrifice Hearthhole if I need to get Kodama and then just replay him or something is kind of nice. It's just like a consistency piece. Cultivate is Cultivate. Tempt with Discovery is like extra scary in this deck. I think in one of my notes I mentioned that I've actually had this resolve twice in the same game, like where I've had everyone say yes. And I think alone I got like 10 lands from this card. My pod is getting really better, like really good at playing against this card where they'll say no a lot of the time. But if you can just time this right, you're pretty much putting them in a position where they have to say yes, because then they start falling behind. Yeah, Tempt with Discovery is so funny. I can see it not being the best, but I have had it really come in clutch. Dimir Machinations can search for any 3 mana value cards, so any card in this pile that you need at any time, yeah, you can go get it, which is just a good consistency piece. Blasphemous Act I put in the 1 mana slot because it's usually 1 mana when I cast it, just to board wipe. Generally with this deck, I actually don't have many board wipes, because usually I'm trying to be the problem. So the other one I have is Planetary Annihilation, which actually is a 5-drop. Sorry. I find I actually don't cast this because I'll have so many lands, more than my opponents, that sacrificing them all, unless it's like a big explosive turn, it doesn't really do what I need it to do. I wish this was slightly different in a way that I can't describe right now. Splendid Reclamation is just a redundant effect to help me get all my lands back. Painful Truths is just another way to draw cards. You just pay 3 life to draw 3. Nature's Lore is another way to ramp without getting basics. Soul Ring is my only ramp that isn't a land. Yeah, we really don't care about artifacts at all. Exploration Brew Trip has been really nice. I find they're really smart with how they design this card. Like, it seems really busted being a 1-drop, but you can't even get it going until like turn 2, turn 3, turn 4. So I find if you play it, it just kind of sits there and kind of just draws heat. Zurin Orb is my only 0-drop. But this one is crazy, just being able to sack a land and gain 2 life. So when you are ready to go off and kill the table, you just go, okay, sack a land, 2 damage, resolves. Okay, sack a land, 2 damage, resolves, sack a land. Because if you don't want to stack them all, go like sack a land, hold priority, sack them all. Because then someone could respond to that, I believe, is what I found to be the smartest way. So just do it 1 at a time. But being able to just do it at as many times as you want is really the game changer. Crucible of Worlds is pretty crucial in the deck, if you could say, because you're milling so much. You need to play lands from your graveyard, and it keeps your hand full of lands for for 6 as well. We've got another version of this with Cyril. I'm not running Ramanap Excavator, which I guess I could, but I'm not. Lorn Windgrace is kind of sick. Being able to return 2 lands, so when you're ready to have a big turn, you just bring 2 more fetch lands, and then you just get your 4 landfall triggers. I haven't been able to get him to ultimate yet, but honestly, I prefer the top 2 effects anyways. Discarding a card, drawing a card, but if it's a land, you draw 2, or you can just return up to 2. So yeah, I find I usually use the -3. And then finally, yeah, I treat him in my like enchantment. So we're on enchantments now. He's basically an enchantment that can be attacked is how my brain works out to it. So I run Curse of Opulence. It's just every red deck, if I could, I would run a Curse of Opulence. It's basically 1 mana, like, or yeah, 1 mana, get 5 mana back. Usually you'll get like, on average, I get about like 2 to 5 for 1, and it's all colored, which is nice, and you can store it for the turn that you need it. On the Trail is a newer card I've added. I've started drawing so many cards, especially with Hearthhole. It lets you put a land from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So in the early games, if you can draw this, it can help you just kind of go off for turns like 3 to 5. If you draw it late, it doesn't really do as much. Oath of Druids, if I could run this in every green deck, I totally would. I love this card. It doesn't force anyone to mill, but you may just reveal cards, and then you just put a creature onto the battlefield for free, and the rest go in the graveyard. So for me, that's actually a really good thing if I can mill a lot. The downside, though, is if you hit like Famished Worldsire kind of early, then it can be a little awkward, but sometimes it gets removed and then your opponents get stuff and you don't get it. So I can totally see people not wanting to run this, but it's my little just kind of group hug thing. It makes the game more fun for me anyways. So Chthonian Nightmare is a newer card. I only run it because Spellbook tells me it combos with Kodama, which I've practiced a couple times. So if you can get like, I believe if you've got something out, something in your graveyard, you go Chthonian Nightmare and Kodama, you can just start looping stuff, which you can see how to do on there. But this can be kind of a do nothing card until you got specific cards. So I can see cutting this one as well. Next one is actually, it's my only reserve list card I've got. And this one is good, but it's only good when you're going for that like big explosive turn, like Famished Worldsire. So it's Squandered Resources. The artwork on this card is so sick. But you can sacrifice a land, add to your mana pool any mana that the sack land could produce. Play anytime you can produce a mana. So like instant speed, just like the Zern Orb, I can sack like a forest, get green mana. So the downside though to this is if you can't get all of your lands back and you really need to go off, one of my wins I've gotten was actually like an all or nothing where if my spell got countered, I was going to lose because I just sacked all my lands and I'm like, well, if this doesn't resolve, I'm left with no lands, and it actually paid off. But it's a card that you have to actually be very careful with, and if you get kind of like gung-ho on sacking your lands for mana, you can really hurt yourself. So but it was like $100 and it's more of like an investment piece, but I'm gonna play it anyways. So I love this card and I love this deck. The last card is Hammer of Perforos. I've been hit or miss on this card, but I've made enough huge tokens in a single turn where it's been justified, where if I have haste, I can just kind of close out the game too. So yeah, I still keep it in, but maybe what is that one enchantment, the red-green one where your creature's coming with Riot? That one's probably better. Maybe like Fire Giavi might be a little better. I don't use the second effect, so I might have to look into that. But yeah, that is the deck, guys. So one take, did it all. My throat is a little dry, but I do teach for a living and I'm used to talking for hours at a time. So if you guys really like the deck profile, please give me a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any more deck profiles you have an idea on, I have a ton of decks. I've got about 15 more decks right behind the camera here, actually. So I'll be making more. I might go a little more into maybe some theory, stuff like that. So if you guys have any ideas, don't hesitate to comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.